Anyways, after that Wash alert where he said AOC sells out, it kind of reminded me of what I saw on Instagram, because I follow AOC on Instagram, and she put this post out where they're trying to, like, the Israel Iron Dome. Okay, let's get into that type of stuff now. Israel Iron Dome AOC.
Is your business frustrated with tech issues? Count on Nerds On Site for Business. Get advice and guidance for your business IT needs. Our total tech solution can set up your network.
So she cried or something. Sorry about the ads,
to manage your business IT and
you know what? I don't want to listen to the ads. Y'all can be tortured with the ads, not me. Bro, can we... it's become unresponsive. Maybe too many freaking ads or something. I don't know. I mean, too many... thingies. Alright, there we go. Sorry if the video quality is bad. I don't know what happened. It sometimes does that.
Florida pursued the House Resolution and for the House that Ms. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
For what?
Designated by Mr. Lawson, Florida pursued the House Resolution.
Yo, these captions are wild, dog. Someone said evil snake.
On House Resolution 483 amendments, he votes nay.
So we saw AOC crying in the corner there. So let's read the article first before I say. AOC appeared to cry on the House vote after breaking with the fellow squad members in a vote to fund Israel's Iron Dome. The bill passed with 49-9 bipartisan majority despite the squad's efforts. Jesus, 420 to 9, dude. 420 to 9. Yikes. Led by Ms. Ocasio-Cortez in his nudge forward agenda with withholding military aid to Israel. Oh, they won't let me read it? Cool. I'll just go to CNN then. Yes, I wept. Okay, close. Yes, I wept. I wept at the complete lack of care for human beings that are impacted by this decision. I wept at the institution choosing a path of maximum volatility and minimum consideration for its own political convenience. And I wept at the complete lack of regard I often feel our party has to its most vulnerable and endangered members and communities, because the death threats and dangerous vitriol we inevitably receive by rushing such a sensitive, charged, and under-considered vote weren't delaying it even for a few hours to help us do the work necessary to open the conversation of understanding. The New York Congresswoman's letter comes a day after the House easily approved a $1 billion funding for Israel's dome, advancing the bill to the Senate for consideration with just 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voting against the measure. Ocasio-Cortez, a progressive, was one of 2 members to vote present on the bill, meaning they didn't vote yes or no after the funding provision had been struck from a separate bill to prevent government shutdown and suspend the nation's borrowing limit. Okay, so my question is, AOC, and I'm sure she's not watching this video because ain't nobody watching my shit right now, but why did you not vote no? Why did you vote present? I don't understand. Like, if you're so against it and it's such a horrible cause for humanity and where it's bad and things like that, why did you vote no? Why didn't you vote no? I mean, why did you vote present? I don't understand. What is that? That makes no sense. Like, yeah, maybe your vote wouldn't have done anything. But why did you vote no? Why didn't you vote no? You voted present, which is like neither yes or no. I don't understand. Like, if it's you so against it, why did you not vote no? Let's see if it's okay. Now let's read about what it is. All right, let's see what it is. So now we know she didn't vote. She voted no or yes. What does she say? Yes, she voted present. Now let's find out what it is. What is the Iron Dome? The aerial defense system, which has for years been heavily sponsored by the United States, is designed to intercept rockets mid-air by targeting them and firing interceptor missiles to destroy them before they can kill civilians living in Israel. The week's legislation specifically would funding to replace missile interceptors that were used during heavy fighting with Hamas in May. Last spring, a number of congressional Democrats ramped up pressure on the Biden administration to forcefully engage on the Israeli-Palestine conflict as violence in the region intensified. It's time to have serious conversations about conditioning military aid. So this description doesn't make it sound bad, but I'm going to do more research. In her letter Friday, the Democrat made clear she was opposing the funding right that for far too long the US has handed unconditional aid to the Israel government while doing nothing to address or raise the persistent human rights abuses against the Palestinian people. And that this imbalance of power must be centered in any onwards conversation about Israel and Palestine. She also apologized to those she disappointed with the vote, adding, to those who believe this reasoning is insufficient or cowardice, I understand. To those who asked me to quell the volatility of this moment in our community, which constituted the majority of constitute feedback our office received, I hope we can take this moment as an opportunity to more deeply engage and grow a true substantive movement of community support for human rights around the world, which includes cherishing and respecting the human rights of Palestinian people. So basically you didn't answer the question why you didn't say no. You just said, well, I understand. Come on, yo. So, okay. Israel Iron Dome. Let me just check it out. What does it actually do? Is it just a self-defense? So let's look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia is actually pretty accurate. I know people joke about it, but it is a pretty good site. Is it the only site you should check out? No, but it is still pretty good. Let's not get it effed up. Iron Dome, Hebrew something something, is a mobile all-weather air defense system developed by Rafael Advanced Defense System in Israel Aerospace Industries. The system is designed to intercept and destroy short-range rockets and artillery shells fired from distance of 4 kilometers to 70 kilometers away, and whose trajectory would take them to an Israel-populated area. So this description says it's just self-defense. But with the way Israel's acted towards Palestine, yeah, I don't know. I don't trust them. Iron Dome was declared operational and initially deployed on 27 March 2011 near Beersheba. On 7th, 2011, the system successfully intercepted a B-21 Grad launch from Gaza for the first time on March 12. The Jerusalem Post reported that the system shot down 90% of rockets launched from Gaza that would land in populated areas. In late 2012, Israel said it hoped for an increase in range of Iron Dome interceptions for a maximum of 70 kilometers to 250 kilometers, make it more versatile so it can intercept rockets coming from 2 directions simultaneously. In November 2012, official statements indicated that it intercepted over 400 rockets. By late 2014, October 2014, the Iron Dome systems had intercepted over 1,200 rockets. Let's see. Alright. See, blah blah blah. Okay, so here's the criticism. Sorry that took that long. Effectiveness. Prior to deployment, Iron Dome was criticized as ineffective in countering the Qassam threat for the southern city of Sderot, given the short distance, 840 meters, half a mile from the closest point of Sderot to Gaza, and flight time between the much-attacked city and the rocket launching pads in the Gaza Strip. Israeli defense officials insisted in 2008, with the recent improvements to the Iron Dome, the system was fully able to intercept Qassams. Analysis based on YouTube footage. The unpublished 2013 report by Theodore Postel, Mordecai, blah blah blah. The official effectiveness figure for Iron Dome, the Operation Pillar of Defense, were incorrect, although Postel had earlier lauded the Iron Dome's effectiveness after studying YouTube videos of the warhead interception, as well as reports and other data. He argued that the Iron Dome's intercept rate, defined as destruction of rockets' warhead, was relatively low, perhaps low as 5%, but could well be lower. Postel reached this conclusion mainly from an analysis of non-official footage of interceptions taken by civilians and published on YouTube. So, claims labeling dubious research without accessible to data. That's what Israel said. Research published in 2018 analyzed the number of deaths, injuries, and property damage claims per rocket fired for 4 officials. These were the second Lebanon War of 2006, Operation Cost Lead in 2008-2009, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, and Operation Protective Edge in 2014. Comparing the loss rates per rocket of the latter 2 operations, which had Iron Dome batteries, to the first 2, which did not, it is estimated the interceptor battery's overall effectiveness at reducing Israelis' loss from rockets. Okay, so estimated. So this is how they were estimating it. Those estimates suggest that the Iron Dome intercepted 59 to 75% of all threatened rockets during protective edge. Threatening means the rockets struck populated areas or were intercepted beforehand. The interceptions likely prevented $42 to $86 million in property damage, 3 to 6 deaths, and 120 to 250 injuries. Since those percentages include rockets anywhere in Israel, the high interception rates claimed for only the areas that batteries were defending seem plausible. By contrast, the Iron Dome apparently intercepted less than 32% of threatening rockets during Pillar of Defense, perhaps much less. The prevented at most 2 deaths, 110 injuries, and US $7 million in damage. The research also implies the number of rocket hits on populated areas was understated. Conversely, the number of threatening rockets seems overstated. The effective interception rate for Pillar of Defense therefore may be markedly less than reported. Study further estimates that the improvements of Israel's civil defenses, such as warning sirens and hardened shelters, were at least as good as Iron Dome at reducing civilian deaths and injuries from rockets. These results partially support critics like Theodore Postel of Iron Dome's effectiveness during Pillar Defense. However, they also partially support proponents like Uzi Rubin of the system's effectiveness during Protective Edge. So it seems to have mixed success. Israel was probably overstating how good it is. Let's look at the effects of Israeli society. Yoav Fromer, writing in Washington Post, thanked the Iron Dome for the lack of fatalities and relatively low casualty rate among Israeli civilians. Said that the technology appears to provide both a physical and psychological solace that enables Israeli to go about their business. Sorry for the burp. However, in his view, over time, Iron Dome may do the Israeli public more harm than good, because despite the fact that it's a tactical miracle, it may help create a serious strategic problem to Israel's long-term security, because by temporarily minimizing the dangers posed by rocket attacks, it distracts Israelis from seeking a broader regional political solution that could finally make systems such as Israel's dome unnecessary. In Fromer's view, the Israeli government is not exactly brimming with creative ideas that reignite the peace process with Palestinians. And with the Iron Dome, why would it? As long as the Israeli public believe it's safe for now, under the soothing embrace of technology, it will not demand that its political leaders wage diplomacy to end violence that mandated the Iron Dome in the first place. Since the Iron Dome has transformed a grim reality into a rather bearable ordeal, Israelis have lost a sense of urgency and outrage that might have pushed their government to make necessary concessions in exchange for peace. In Fromer's view, Israelis risk confusing the short-term military advantages provided by the Iron Dome with a long-term need for original and comprehensive diplomatic solution. Amir Peretz, the 2006 to 2007 Israeli defense minister who pushed through the implementation of Iron Dome, told the Washington Post that the system is no more than a stopgap measure, that in the end the only thing that will bring true quiet is a diplomatic solution. So it seems like there are criticisms that it's not effective, sometimes it's good. If it stops people from dying, I'm okay with it, as long as it's not actually bombing Palestine or actually being aggressive to Palestine. If it's just a defense mechanism, I'm okay with it. However, I understand why AOC sort of voted no and was trying to raise a conversation about, okay, we're funding Israel, we're giving them, the ability to fight and defend themselves, but why are we not helping to stop the war between Israel and Palestine? You know what I mean? And I get that. That's a good question. But the point is, why did she not vote no then? That I don't understand. Why did you, sorry, wrong camera angle. Why did you not vote no? You just said present. So you're like, oh, I'm here. It's not either yes or no, it's like a neutral stance, and I don't get that. So let me look at more Iron Dome. Let's look at Politico. House passes $1 billion for Israel after progressives dust up. Funding was stripped from a stopgap funding bill and scheduled for its own vote after Liberals protested. The House on Thursday overwhelmingly passed a bill to replenish Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system just 2 days after it was pulled from the government funding package over objections from progressive lawmakers. Yeah, I think it's a bit ridiculous that the US is still funding Israel militarily when they should be trying to stop the war in the first place. I think that's the fundamental problem. I think the dome itself, yeah, self-defense, that's great. But the problem is, why does the US keep giving money to Israel to do all the horrible shit that is done to Palestine? Right, like conquering their remember during that, I don't know, it was a month ago or something, they bombed the hell out of innocent Palestinian people. They kicked people out of their homes. I can't remember exactly when it was exactly, but they did do that. and they've done aggressive things to it. I'm not denying that. The US is really not helping a peaceful solution come through. That's the problem. They're funding the war, but they're not trying to end the war. Moderate Democrats have just pushed for a standalone vote on the Iron Dome funding, which totals $1 billion, amid an uproar over leadership decision to strip it from a stopgap spending bill aimed at averting a government shutdown at the end of the month. Bill passed by a vote of 420 to 9, with 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voting against it, plus 2 Democrats voting present. For the majority party, the episode further exposed the internal strife over the US-Israel relationship, with progressives demanding a policy doctrine that takes into account the plight of Palestinians and pushes back on Israel's retaliatory offenses in Gaza. Yeah, I would say so. That is definitely a conversation that needs to be had. So it's not really about the Iron Dome specifically, where, oh, the Iron Dome is evil. It's not about that. It's about the fact that you keep giving money to Israel to fight and, beat up Palestinians. I'm not saying Palestine's perfect. Of course, you have Hamas doing all sorts of bad stuff. But both sides, especially Israel, has done some bad things, right? So we need to stop. Israel is allied with the USA. Palestine's not true. I get that. But the problem I think the progressives have here is that they are not helping to stop the war. They're sort of just exacerbating it by funding Israel. I think that's the problem that they have. Like I said, I'm not a huge expert on this, but I can see where they're coming from. Lawmakers who support the security funding sought to highlight the defensive nature of the Iron Dome system. It is defensive, which has proven to be effective in intercepting rockets that would otherwise harm civilians in Israel. Like, we read that Wikipedia article, it has mixed success. Sometimes it's incredibly good, and sometimes it's really, really bad at intercepting missiles. Like, we've seen that before. The USA is good at perpetuating wars. Yeah. Yes, you are correct, Ignota. You're absolutely correct. They are very good at doing that. I mean, I think that's like their bread and butter when it comes to foreign policies, like starting wars or keeping wars going when they shouldn't be doing it. I think that's the big problem here. They should be trying to help bring peace between Israelis and Palestinians, but instead they're sort of just giving money to one side in a military manner. I don't think that's good at all. Okay, let me repeat. This funding, as the bill language clearly states, is limited to the system that's entirely defensive. House Appropriations Chair Rosa de Con said, "The legislation before us ensures that Israel can fully defend all its citizens and a necessary condition for lasting peace." If that's the case, shouldn't you trying to be funding both sides so to make sure that they can defend themselves? Why just Israel, yeah? Israel views the Iron Dome as critical to its security. Terror groups like Hamas routinely fire rockets to Israel, and the Iron Dome destroys the mid-air. The missile defense system is developed jointly by U.S. defense contractor Raytheon Technologies. Even though I don't know anything about this, I have actually heard of Raytheon Technologies. It must be a big deal. And Israel's Rafael advanced defense systems. Over the summer, Israel found itself in a shooting war with Hamas militants in Gaza, who were firing hundreds of rockets per day into Israel and prompting a series of retaliatory strikes by the Israel government against Hamas positions in Gaza. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure civilians died in that sense, right? The problem is, Palestine doesn't have an Iron Dome to defend itself, so when Israel fires on them, I think it's way more damaging than the other way around, right? So, this is just a mess, really. This is just a mess. Progressives in the U.S. criticize the Israel government for that offensive. Yeah, I mean, why do you need to fight? I mean, if they did no damage to you, and then you're firing right back into Gaza, and civilians would die. So you're not really just killing Hamas, you're also killing innocent Palestinian people. So it's only going to make it worse, which means more people are probably going to run into the hands of Hamas, because you're building more resentment against you by bombing innocent civilians. It's a really bad idea. They have since argued that the U.S. military aid to Israel should be condition-based, as it often is for other countries with whom the U.S. has had a strategic relationship. Yeah, I think with, Iran? They had a nuclear deal, right, where they said, you can't build nuclear weapons. So it's I think it should be condition-based like that, where it's okay, we're gonna give you like military aid. We'll give you aid, but you gotta de-escalate the conflict, or you gotta do something. They can't just keep giving them like military weapons and money for military stuff and be like, yeah, do what you want. Yeah, nah, bro, nah. You gotta do better than that. You can't. It's too much. Why am I wearing my headphones? Why am I wearing my headphones? I'm not even listening to anything. But yeah, it's not a good idea. It's not a good look. Other Democrats have pushed for the U.S. to fund humanitarian assistance for Palestinians in tandem with the Iron Dome funding. Yeah, that would be fair. Like, you're funding Israel, but at the same time, you're also helping Palestine, But, like, they're not going to do that. Ahead of the House vote, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with Israel Defense Minister Benny Gantz. According to a readout from Israel government, Gantz thanked Secretary Austin for the continued support of the U.S. administration and the Pentagon for the process to equip Israel with means necessary to defend itself and its citizens. Okay, so after reading a bit on this and understanding this a bit better, because I just learned about the situation right now, I mean, a few hours ago, you could say, I can see. So the Israel Iron Dome is not the actual problem, because it actually is about self-defense. The problem is you're only funding one side in the war, and that one side is killing civilians. And that one side, Israel, has the ability to defend itself from missiles, and I don't think Palestine does. I don't know if Palestine has any ability to defend, has any like good anti-missile defenses. And Israel like literally retaliated in Gaza and killed civilians, and the U.S. isn't going to like penalize them or say, well, if you're going to kill civilians, we can't give you the stuff, we can't give you the money, we can't give you the weapons, we can't do that. But they're not doing that. So this is the problem. The U.S. is making that conflict worse by simply funding one side and not actually trying to stop the war and saying, okay, if you want this, you got to have a compromise, you got to have peace. If you want money from us, that's how it's got to be. Sorry. But they're not doing that. That's the problem, and I can see that. Now, here's my problem with AOC. Why did you vote, present, right? Which means you didn't vote yes, you didn't vote no. 2 Democrats voted present. Even if you voted no and nothing happened, which probably nothing would have, because it was like a 420-9 vote for in favor of that bill, which is overwhelming. Why did you vote present? I don't understand. Like, why did you vote present? Did you not want the backlash from voting no? Or are you being... Okay, I don't know if I should accuse her of corruption like that, because, like, I don't know. She has done good for us, and she has been a great leader in terms of public relations with the left and brought a lot of young people over here. But why did you vote present? I don't I'm trying to rationalize it. If you really care about Palestinians and stuff, you vote no. Just vote no. It's that simple. But clearly you don't want to tick off either some people that you want to please. Maybe you get some money if you voted present. I don't know. Again, don't get mad at me, lefties. I'm not saying AOC is some sort of corrupt sellout, but this is not a good look. It's not, because this is clearly kind of like a conflict of sort of like interest, because you're saying you want to help Palestinians, you really think this bill is bad and funding the Iron Dome is bad, but you voted present, not no. So that doesn't really, your words and your actions don't really line up. They're kind of like contradicting each other. So I wouldn't rush and call AOC a sellout. I saw Vosh's I saw a notification from Vosh where he was discussing it on stream saying AOC sold out. I don't know if I go that far, but he probably knows a lot more about this situation than I do. But I personally wouldn't call him a sellout. But I don't know. This doesn't look good. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you vote present instead of no? Just vote no if you're really against it. I feel like she was really afraid of the backlash, or there's something else going on that we don't really know about. So that's all I got to really say for this topic. I think that she should have not done that. She should have voted no, and US has got to stop escalating this war and help Palestinians that need help and come up with a peace solution. Something. You got to do something. Otherwise, this is not going to go well.